All right, welcome back. After the Coke Zero Sugar 400, which was a fantastic time with the family at the racetrack, that race ended up confirming the 16 drivers who will participate in this year's NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs. And in this video, we'll take a look at the previous race winners first from Iowa all the way up to Daytona, and then after that, we'll do my playoff bracket predictions, beginning from the round of 16 at Darlington all the way to the championship, which is at Phoenix, as that will host the championship for the last time before it returns to Homestead Miami Speedway. We'll also take a look at how everybody is seeded from their playoff points accumulated throughout the regular season, and then afterwards I'll give my thoughts on those 4 races from Iowa to Daytona, including any last minute things I want to say about last weekend. And then after that, I'll highlight some drivers, and then we'll take a look at the points for the drivers who failed to make this year's playoffs for the last time, and then we'll take one last look at it at the end of the 2025 season. All right, let's get this thing going. Highlighting our race winners, we saw William Byron end up winning at Iowa on a matter of fuel mileage to win his second race of the season, which was his first since the Daytona 500. Afterwards at Watkins Glen, we saw Shane Van Gisbergen end up winning his 4th race of the year as a rookie after taking control in Stage 2 and would be tied with Denny Hamlin with most wins this season. At Richmond, we'd see Austin Dillon redeem himself from last year, and he'd have his best showing of the season by far and arguably his best career race, and he would end up winning with great strategy and speed. And then most recently at Daytona, we saw Ryan Blaney start first and finish first with the help of the metric system, as his Richmond run ended up setting up success, as he did get that #1 pit stall, and then he came out of nowhere to break the hearts of 20 other full-time drivers who did not make the playoffs. All right, now we're going to get really in depth with the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs, which will include my bracket prediction, and ultimately we ended up finishing with 14 different winners going into Darlington, with 2 of those making it in on points, and how they are seated right now has all been accumulated from their race wins, which are worth 5 playoff bonus points, and stage wins, which are worth 1 playoff bonus point. And then you have the top 10 in the regular season standings earning additional points. And beginning with first, we have Kyle Larson, who has 32 points essentially with 3 wins and 9 stage wins. And then in second, we have William Byron, who is the regular season champion. Third, we have Denny Hamlin, who is tied for the most race wins with 4. And then we have Ryan Blaney, last week's winner. We also have Christopher Bell sitting there in 5th, followed by Shane Van Gisbergen, who also has 4 wins on the year. Chase Elliott, who's ran very consistently, followed by Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain. And then down the 12th, we have the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, Joey Logano. And then on the outside looking in, we have Josh Berry, followed by Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, and Alex Bowman. Taking a glance at where the cut line is, as that is where Ross Chastain and Joey Logano are, currently tied for 11th, and that is just by 1 point over Josh Berry and Tyler Reddick, who are tied for 13th, with Austin Dillon 2 points back, and Alex Bowman is the furthest back by 5 points, just to paint the picture how things are going into Darlington this weekend. The reality is, throughout this video, we are not going to be keeping track of extra bonus points achieved throughout the playoffs, because I will not be predicting every grave detail of every race, but overall it shouldn't be a problem. And yes, you can still earn those playoff bonus points to improve your seeding all the way up into the championship 4. And anyways, we are going to go round by round, which I'll review the tracks in each round, and afterwards I'll make my determinations on why some drivers end up making it and why some don't make it. Beginning with the round of 16, it begins at Darlington for Labor Day weekend, and then after that they will head to Worldwide Technology Raceway, aka Gateway, and it will end at Bristol. So ultimately we have 3 unique tracks that are under a mile and a half, a couple intermediates and 1 short track. And beginning with my predictions, which will go down the list, I have Kyle Larson making it in with ease. William Byron should have a lot of speed as well, so I have him making it in. Denny Hamlin can win races as well. And then we have Ryan Blaney also getting in. Christopher Bell, nothing very questionable there. And then we have Shane Van Gisbergen. I'm going to say no, and that's going to be just due to his lack of experience, honestly, and the unknowns of how he'll run at Gateway. And then we have Chase Elliott, who I think he'll run very consistent. I have Chase Briscoe making it in, also a driver I think that will run pretty good. I think Bubba Wallace will have enough speed as well. Austin Cindric, I think he'll do really good at Gateway, which will be the difference maker. Then we have Ross Chastain, who I think will run consistent as well. I think Joey Logano is the defending champion. He'll end up sneaking in. And then Josh Berry, I see him going out. He hasn't really shown much of anything lately. Tyler Reddick, I know he's low, but he shouldn't have an issue getting into the round of 12. Austin Dillon, I'm just not convinced. And then Alex Bowman, they just haven't found ways to secure points lately when it mattered and almost missed the playoffs. So I'm going to say he misses. So ultimately, that is the round of 16 and my 4 drivers missing out. We have Shane Van Gisbergen, and then we have Josh Berry, Austin Dillon, and Alex Bowman. And we're going to get into the round of 12. We see New Hampshire return to the playoffs, literally just for this season. And then they'll return to Kansas, where they raced earlier this year. And then we have the Charlotte Roval. So we have 2 ovals of different sizes. And we have a road course on an oval, essentially. Going down the list as per last time, I think Kyle Larson will once again put together some good runs. I'm not sure if William Byron will win in this round, but I think he'll have enough speed to make it through. I see Denny Hamlin having some success. I'm not sure if he'll win, but he'll have some success. I'm sure Ryan Blaney will be good as well. Christopher Bell is the driver I am looking out for. I think he can win any of these races ultimately. Chase Elliott, once again, I think he'll run very consistent. Chase Briscoe, this time around, I know he's on a much better team, but this time around, I just don't see much going for him this time around, but he could easily prove me wrong. I think Bubba Wallace will be good, but I have him missing out as well. Austin Cindric, he'll have a really good run at Charlotte, but I just don't see there being enough. And then Ross Chastain, I think he'll be right around that cut line, but I have him being one that also ends up missing out ultimately. And this one's a little shocker because I didn't think I'd do this, but I actually do have Joey Logano running past the round of 12. I think he got a lot of good info from New Hampshire, and he had good runs at Kansas earlier this year, as well as the new configuration of Charlotte last year. And then we have Tyler Reddick, and I think he'll also get to the round of 8, even though he has the least amount of points right now of all the drivers left over. Our 4 drivers that end up getting eliminated, we have Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, and Ross Chastain. And then we'll get into the round of 8, 3 different types of tracks: Las Vegas, 1.5 mile track, Talladega, Super Speedway in the round of 8. And then we have the shortest track, Martinsville, meaning it's going to be pretty chaotic. Going down the list, we have Kyle Larson, and I will have Kyle Larson getting into the Championship 4 here. I think he'll run very good at Talladega, honestly, as well as Martinsville, and be a contender at Las Vegas. For William Byron, I know he won the regular season title, but I haven't seen the race winning speed there necessarily, and I feel that is a difference maker, so he's going to miss out for me. Denny Hamlin, I think he's actually just going to get in on a win, and it's probably going to be Martinsville, so I'm going to have Denny Hamlin being the one that gets in with Larson so far. And then Ryan Blaney, I think he'll be very close to that cut line, but I'll have him missing out. Christopher Bell, I believe he's going to have some great runs for the round of 8 as well, and he's going to be my 3rd driver getting in. And then we have Chase Elliott. I think his consistency may be the difference maker, as well as these are going to be some good tracks for him that he's ran at earlier this year. So I'm going to have Chase Elliott getting in on points, which means the other two drivers won't be getting in. And that would be the defending champion, Joey Logano. I think he can win Talladega by all means, but if you don't, and if you get into trouble, which he's been known for doing lately, may not turn out very well for you. And then Tyler Reddick, I just don't think that championship 4 speed is there, unlike last year for him. So we're going to go into the championship 4 of the drivers that ended up missing out. William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and Tyler Reddick. So this sets up a championship 4 between Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Chase Elliott. So if you were wondering who my champion is going to be, run the drum roll, someone. It's going to be Christopher Bell. And for me, Christopher Bell, I know he hasn't won in a hot minute, but I do believe they can turn on the switch. They run really good at Phoenix as well. They won earlier at Phoenix, by the way, and they've been really good at Phoenix in general. And notably, I think Denny Hamlin will be in the mix for that title, but I don't think he'll get it. I think he'll just miss out to his teammate. And then I'll run Kyle Larson overall in 3rd. And then in 4th, I'll have Chase Elliott, just because we have not seen really race winning speed from Elliott. So that is my champion. This is overall what my bracket looks like. We'll see what happens, because obviously issues happen at tracks. We can see wrecks, you name it. Talladega would throw a big wrench in the round of 8 as well. So let me know what you think in the comments on my bracket, what you think is going to happen. I would love to hear it. All right, we're going to move on to the next segment, and that's going to be my thought on the most recent races. And we're going to begin with Iowa. That was a very interesting race, to say the least, and the newly repave areas on the track changed so much from last year to this year. We saw turn 1 become a big trouble point that Saturday, notably seeing Kyle Busch have a vicious hit in practice, and it was, I would say, fairly hard to pass. And then it turned into a fuel mileage race at a short track, which seems very unheard of, and the lap traffic was just stacking the field up, but no one could pass. It was also nice to see Byron not run out of fuel for once, but the fact we have drivers pushing hard and can't gain on the leader, it's a cause for concern in that we're doing fuel saving at short tracks. Just a thought. And then at Watkins Glen, this was just a complete snooze fest. I just was extremely bored, and I would say it was the most boring race of the year. And pretty much we saw 2 drivers dominate the race, with Blaney in one half and Gisberg in the other half. And maybe the TV coverage wasn't good, and all we really saw was 2 different pit strategies and some tire wear that ended up helping making this race better between the 2 strategies. And you can at least monitor on what strategy. Other than that, I was just bored. And then at Richmond, I was a massive fan of the tire wear at this track, and we did get to see some incredible racing throughout the field, as well as some good battles with some lap traffic, which also played to a factor at the end. A little negative there. We ended up seeing some notable wrecks, and towards the end, the strategy was just completely real, based on who got fresh tires first, and that includes how Austin Dillon ended up winning. And I was impressed how they ended up getting that win in Richmond. And I don't know if this race was necessarily more exciting as the last 2 the previous year, but it did give off a lot of good energy, even though the race winner in the circumstances with the points, maybe not. And then lastly at Daytona, I didn't know what to expect going there, but I did love being there personally. It was great. And the race started very hectic. We saw a lot of problems around the turn 4 area after the fact, and eventually everyone calmed down. We saw some cautions. Probably hope there not be any fuel mileage throughout this race, from what I could tell. And then towards the end, I thought it was incredible how no one wrecked. Everyone kept it clean, and we got to see the race play out with a 4-wide photo finish, and a lot of hopes and dreams ended up getting crushed by Ryan Blaney. And we saw tons of players throughout the race too. Next up, we're going to highlight some drivers. Some are in the playoffs, a few aren't. So we're going to begin with Kyle Larson, and as mentioned, Larson enters the playoffs tied for first, which gives him plenty of wiggle room, and that stage win at Daytona could be huge. And going into this round, he has Darlington and Bristol, which he has been extremely fast at, and it's just going to be a matter of execution and not running into any problems. But however, he has failed to make it to victory lane since winning at Kansas, and they need to find that race winning speed again. Next, we have his teammate William Byron, who ends up winning the regular season championship. And as of recording, I'm not sure if they're going to be facing any other penalties from Daytona. We'll have to see. He, like his teammate Larson, hasn't shown much race winning speed, even though he did recently win at Iowa. But he definitely has a lot of top 5 pace right now. I think it'll be good for now, but they are going to need to work on some race winning speed realistically if they want to win the championship. Next, we have Ryan Blaney, and he's been great, especially on the long runs, and he even snuck by the win at Daytona recently. They seem to be slightly under the radar right now with only 2 wins on the year, but this is undoubtedly the best 4 driver in the field, and he'll have a chance to get his 3rd win during the round of 16, notably at Gateway. Next, we have Shane Van Gisbergen, and he's got better at the ovals throughout the summer, and he stacked up some playoff bonus points with more coming from Watkins Glen, and I was also impressed how things worked out at Richmond with his 13th place finish. But just based on his experience now, I don't see him advancing as mentioned, but if he can just learn and stay out of trouble while being under the radar, don't be surprised to see like a sudden deep playoff run for the rookie, who is also clinched Rookie of the Year with Riley Herbst failing to make the playoffs. Next, we have the defending champion Joey Logano, and it is time for Joey Logano to step it up as he defends his title, as his only win of the year was at Texas. And I believe they will do that by all means, but how much are you going to step up? The round of 16 could be a concern if he runs into trouble, and if he can get out the round of 16, I do believe there are some better tracks for him in the round of 12. And if you get out of there, you can rely on Talladega in the round of 8 to rely on getting back to the championship at Phoenix, and he's won that race a handful of times. Our newest race winner, Austin Dillon, is next on my list, and he has redeemed himself with a great Richmond win. And they did even have some success at Daytona, and they were leading laps towards the end of that race. I'm not sure how much that will carry over by all means, but it is a good sign for them to take this momentum going into Darlington. I'm sure the team feels pretty good about themselves, so don't be shocked if they have a good run at Darlington. Next, we have our first that missed out, and that is Chris Buescher. And he ends up missing out on the playoffs literally just by not winning in back-to-back seasons during the regular season. And if he did not get that penalty back at Kansas in May, he would have missed the playoffs by only 1 point to Alex Bowman, which ended up being a 31-point difference. It's unfortunate for Buescher, but do not be surprised if he ends up winning again in the playoffs while being on the outside playing spoiler, because he'd be the one to do it. Behind him in the standings, we have Ryan Preece, and it has been a career best season for Ryan Preece, but like his teammate Buescher and team owner Brad Keselowski, they didn't win. I can't say that wasn't expected for him. However, he has definitely secured a lot of stability and security driving the 60 car, and it was incredible to see how he's performed so far this season. And my only question is, what will this team's form be throughout the playoffs after missing out? We'll just have to find out. Next, we have Daniel Suarez, and I've brought his name up probably a few times now in the past couple months, and as expected, he didn't make the playoffs in his last season for Trackhouse Racing. He'll be the only driver of that team that missed out in the playoffs, but he has put together some pretty great runs in the last 3 races while he looks for a new ride, which he'll be getting replaced by Connor Zilic. This may help him out a lot, and he ends up finishing back-to-back 7th place at Watkins Glen as well as Richmond, which he has some controversy from that race. And then he recently led laps at Daytona, and Ryan Blaney essentially showed him the Uno reverse card from February of last year at Atlanta. and he ends up being the one that beats him out in a photo finish at Daytona to crush his playoff dreams. This team is flying right now, and obviously they are under the radar, and it's going to be like that the rest of the season. So I'd expect to see some good runs from Suarez to end the year, and we'll just have to see where he ends up. And then also, I'll leave my Daniel Suarez video where I went in very deep detail about his career as we move on to our last driver. It's a part-timer, and I'm bringing up Austin Hill once again, and I brought him up not for good reasons. He did get that suspension from Indianapolis in Xfinity Series and missed out Iowa. And then he just came back and he's just continued to crash a bunch of cars. And he's just being way too aggressive right now. And I was even concerned on Saturday that he was going to cause a wreck in the Cup Series. I can say he almost did be in a lap car. But he ended up getting collected in Bubba Wallace's mess, which is why he was off the pace. I know this is me mainly talking about the Cup Series, but he is becoming the most hated driver in the garage in the lower series at the current moment, and he's just continuing to make enemies. Lastly, I wanted to just show off the remainder of the point standings from the ones outside the playoffs, which we're not going to look at this again until the conclusion of this season. So in 17th, we have Chris Buescher. He has a 35-point lead over Ryan Preece, and then Ty Gibbs is there, who had a rough start of the season. And then Kyle Busch is right behind him, who just needed more race-winning speed. We'll go down to John Hunter Nemechek, and he's just been slowly dropping back. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., since the summer, he's dropped off a lot. Justin Haley's had a rough season, and he's dealt with a lot of people this year. We saw a significant drop-off from Todd Gilliland. He has his teammate, Noah Gragson. Lots of bad luck mixed in with bad runs. And then we have our part-timers, 37th, down to what I believe is 44th. And then we saw Casey Mears just make a big jump just because he ran Daytona. That will conclude the video. Coming up, we'll have my Connor Zilic discussion releasing next on the channel after this video. And then the next and likely final race vlog of the season will be the Enjoy Illinois 300 Worldwide Technology Raceway coming up next weekend. It has also been an incredible time being back in Florida, being around the people I love, and going to Daytona, which this won't happen again until next year around this time of year. And as always, just want to say thanks for your support on the NASCAR content lately, because it has been a great month so far, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, y'all.